talk about the Boston Bruins with the general manager, Don Sweeney. A different spring for you. You fill in time in different ways, not being at the rink?
The days are full. We've got a lot of things to do and accomplish, and we've had to set out a little different plan for us based on the deadline that we executed, and so I've got a lot of things on my plate right now that we're working through.
So, Don, out of Four Nations, by the way, did you have fun at Four Nations?
Yes, big time. Yeah.
Particularly with the final game in Boston too, right?
Yeah, the result didn't hurt there, but it was great hockey, boys. It really was. It was, the drop of the puck. The first 10 minutes, you go back and think about our Swedish game. The first 10 minutes was like the fastest, cleanest hockey I had seen in a long time by teams. And people were somewhat critical of lack of scoring chances, or they thought these would be these 6-5 type games. And you realize, like, you got the best players in the world. They're all invested. They're playing behind. They're working above. The goaltenders are excellent. Like, there just wasn't a lot of space. The pace of the game and the execution was outstanding, but there was no room. And penalties were minimal, so it was just real good hockey.
So the reason I bring that up is obviously Charlie got hurt during the tournament. At what point did you quickly decide, you know what, this isn't going to work? We're not going to make the playoffs. Was that a discussion you and Cam had quite quickly after that, or was it before that?
Well, our season was sort of broken down in quadrants for us. We were disappointed with where our team had come out in training camp, and we were sort of swimming upstream from there. And again, we've typically been a team that's gotten off to a good start, and so we're behind a little bit, playing catch up, which is not easy in the league, and made a really difficult decision in making a coaching change. And then we got out of the gate with Joe in the 20 games or so that he took over. And it really, we got back on path. We were in a much, much better place on January the 3rd. And I've marked through the dates, where things started to go sideways, where they were pointed in the right direction and then went sideways. And on January 3rd, we played up in Toronto on the 4th. We played the Islanders on the 5th. You look at those two types of games, and disappointing results in both of them. And we got away. We started right there. We started to get away from what had been making us successful for 20 games. Now, we had been struggling to score at the rates we typically have. Power play was putting a lot of pressure on our team overall because we weren't executing, which again is puzzling because you had 4 of the same 5 guys that had been, somewhere in the 10 to 15 ranking the previous year. And you bring in Elias Lindholm, who's been a bumper guy, in Calgary and had success in their power play. And our power play is now tracking at 28 or 29. So those pressure points were not ideal for us, albeit we felt that some of the guys would get back on course. You look at Pasternak's, where he turned around in January, and obviously Morgan Geekie of the year he started to have from January on, but other guys just weren't getting back to their watermarks. And obviously our goaltending wasn't anywhere near where it was the previous season. So those stress points in the season for the next 25 games gave us a much clearer indication that our team was not tracking in the right direction. And we were starting to accumulate even more injuries. As you referenced, Charlie got hurt, Brad got hurt, Trent Frederick got hurt. And we were still somewhat surprised in terms of where Hampus Lindholm's return to play was. Originally, it was, sort of 2-month time frame, maybe plus or minus, but it turned into 3, and then it turned into he's not coming back. And these players are difficult to replace. At times we did a decent job filling it in, but we were in neutral. And I'm a big believer that your team is needs to have a direction. And stuck in neutral is not a good thing in the National Hockey League, in my opinion. And we made for the first time in really all my 10 years of general manager, but even as working in management, that was the first time for me in 15 or 16 years that we had decided to really pivot at the deadline.
So fighting for the final playoff spot is basically being stuck in neutral compared to your past success. Is that fair?
Yeah, and again, I never want to take away, what it means to be in the playoffs. I mean, sitting here watching games and there's nothing worse. There just isn't. To be outside looking in. Now, we've also been, my first year, we lost our last game of the season. When Tuukka Rask was unable to play, we lost our last game. We had tied with Detroit, and we were out of the playoffs. Mm-hmm. So, I don't feel any better today because we've accumulated draft picks and where we were before. But that being said, we would have probably maintained, as you referenced, challenging for those last spots and being a potential wild card team. And I do not want to downgrade the importance of that at all. It's just that we weren't going to get healthy. The likelihood of Hampus was already shut down. The likelihood of Charlie coming back, like how effective were we going to be as a team we thought we would be, and we weren't. And that's the ownership that I have to take in terms of where the roster was, the lack of depth, inability to score it and get ourselves back in where we felt we were going to be, as competitive as we had been in the past.
And Charlie and Hampus they will be ready for September.
Yeah, they'll be between now and then, as long as they have a normal course of summer training and such, they'll be full go.
The other fascinating thing for your team this year was with the ups and downs, and let's face it, there were ups and downs. David Pastrnak was still amazing. This guy can still contributed every time he played the game, and to have him have a season statistically that he did while the team was struggling really puts him on another level, doesn't it?
Yeah, those players get an awful lot of attention from the opposing top lines and top defense pairs and such. And we went through where we had guys out of the lineup and he was still producing. And you look at Morgan Geekie going to his line and having a terrific season as well. It's really a testament to David, and his talent level. Now, if you look and see at the start that David got off to, the fact is it's where he ended up in the scoring races and overall in the league is even more impressive because he as well did not get off to a torrid start by any means. He came off of a little bit of knee stuff in the off season. Probably didn't have the most effective training schedule that he's been generally accustomed to having. So he had a little bit of a slow start, but boy, did he produce. By year's end, he was he's in the top echelon of the league, right where he belongs.
How difficult was it to trade Marchand?
Yeah, the personal, as I described, the personal side and the business side of things for me at the deadline was very challenging. I have a 20-year relationship with Brad, dating back to when he was drafted and all the development time I spent with him in junior and then in Providence and when he first came up. So a very, very difficult decision for me. When it was clear that we weren't going to find a contract level, we just felt that, the best decision for the organization and now where Brad sits today, maybe the best decision for him to have an opportunity to go back into a high leverage situation that he craves and thrives in. And it just didn't make it any easier to know that we were sending him to a team that's likely to have a really good chance to continue to move forward if they do what they're supposed to do and stay healthy. But disappointing in a lot of ways because I felt that his legacy will never be tarnished as a Boston Bruin. In all likelihood, he'll be in the rafters and in the Hall of Fame. And as I told him, I'll always be a fan of Brad. I'm not going to stop believing him as a player. It just was very difficult to not find the contractual common ground.